I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I have trouble with my cursor.
Mr. Rader? Mr. Lucas?
Yes.
Mr. Matlock?
Here.
Mr. Labar?
Here.
Mr. Mitchell? Mr. McInerney?
Here.
Dr. Zeppa?
Here.
Mr. Blum?
Here.
Mrs. Pepino? Here. And Mrs. Furman?
Here.
Next on your agenda, you'll see the results of the November 7th, 2017 school board election. We had 3 people elected for a 3-year term. One of those members is not able to serve on our board, and I do have a resignation letter from her. Dear Board of Education, as I am sure you are aware, I received a letter from Attorney Stephen Edelstein regarding my position on the Belvidere Board of Education. I was told I had to choose between my teaching position at Harmony Township School and my position on the Belvidere Board of Education. Although I do not agree with the decision, the way it was handled, or the conduct of certain board members, I will not be pursuing the issue any further and will not be accepting the position on the board. Sincerely, Sarah Pulaski. With that resignation, we'll have 2 open seats on the Belvidere Board of Education. We have advertised for these seats. We've, at this point in time, had 1 applicant for the position on the board. That is Mr. Brian Smith, who's a long-standing board member here. It's up to the board at this point if you'd like to go into an executive session to interview him, or if you would like to appoint to the board at this time. Sure.
Make a motion to bring Mr. Smith on the board.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
Abstentions? Okay, this time we're going to swear in our board members. Just so everyone's aware, the appointment will be for a 1-year term, and all appointments will have to run again in the November general election for the remainder, for renewal of term. So, Mr. Smith? You can, it would be any spot that you put in for you. Okay, those that need to be sworn in, if you would stand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Brian Smith,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the same
to the same
and to the governments established
and to the governments established
in the United States
in the United States
and this state,
and this state,
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
so help me God.
so help me God.
I state your name.
I, Brian Smith,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I possess the qualifications
that I possess the qualifications
prescribed by law
prescribed by law
for the office of member of the Board
for the office of member of the Board
of Education,
of Education,
and that I will faithfully,
and that I will faithfully,
impartially, and justly perform
justly perform
all the duties of that office
all the duties of that office
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
If you would each sign the oath and pass that in to me, please. At this time, I'd like to take nominations for the president of the Belvidere Board of Education.
I nominate Sean McInerney.
Second.
Mr. Duff. Any other nominations?
Yes.
Make a motion to close the nominations for president?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? We'll vote on candidate. There's only one. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Mr. McInerney presides.
Thank you, Sean. And thank you all. We have a lot of work ahead of us, and but it's been, I think, the past, it's been very collegial, collaborative. I think that people on the board certainly have the district's best interest at heart. That's always evident. And, sometimes we don't always agree on things, but I do appreciate the fact that we can have honest discussions and be respectful of people's opinions. So, with that, do we have a nomination for vice president for the board?
I nominate Robert Zopel.
Are you interested? Or not? You decline the nomination? Do we have other nominations?
I nominate Brian Smith.
I was going to nominate Don.
I think that works right now.
I mean, you can't nominate somebody that's absent, right?
Sure. He's a member of the board.
I'll respectfully decline and instead move Don.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Do you have other nominations? Do we have-
Motion to close the nominations.
Second.
This is just by voice, right? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Moving on with the rest of our reorganization agenda. On the reorganization, do we have a motion on items 1 through 4?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion? Did I miss something? Oh, yeah, so we will, thank you. So we will talk about committee assignments. Thank you for reminding me. Let's go through the rest of the agenda, but we'll come back on that. Thank you, Bob. I'm fighting a head cold too, so if I seem a little spacey, and I'm fighting a little lack of sleep, so I appreciate it. Don't make me laugh. Don't make me laugh. Getting back on reorganization 1 through 4. I don't even know where we are now. Discussion. Any discussion? Any concerns about our meeting dates? No?
February 14th. I mean, I'm not too concerned, but
Oh, I have a concern
Sorry.
now that you say that. I'm not sure what year that's in. We'll take that 7 off.
Well, yeah. Any other
Concern in the holiday.
Any other discussion or questions about the year? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Moving into our regular agenda, we have our first public participation. Do we have comments or questions from the public this evening?
I do.
Could you identify yourself, please?
Sure. My name is Carol Roosevelt, and I live in Belvidere on Hong Street. I just have a couple of questions about the reorganization. One is, I was just curious as to where the open position was posted as open.
Definitely put it on the signboard
website,
outside.
On the sign. Sign the website.
It was-
it's posted on Genesis as well.
Genesis.
I saw it on our website. Too.
Yeah, website. Yeah,
Yeah.
a few different places. There's still one position open too, by the way, if you're interested.
And two, I'm familiar with the unfortunate incidents with Sarah Klosky, and I was wondering if
It doesn't really, maybe I can respond and then Chris if you want to respond. So when this first came up in terms of the election, it really isn't a matter of bylaws, it's a matter of the administrative code that's established by the Department of Education. And there had been, this is not the first time, not for Belvidere, but it's not the first time. There are many, many sending receiving districts in the state of New Jersey, and many that do a shared service. As you're probably aware, shared services has been something that's been promoted throughout the state for a number of years. Part of it out of a need to establish efficiencies, out of a need to try to reduce the tax burden.
Yes,
So
I'm not
let me just finish, please.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So so we have a shared service agreement where we have a superintendent over both Harmony and Belvidere. The court case and the commissioner's opinion or decision, which is binding, which has the weight of law, stems from the fact that you would have, theoretically, you would have an individual who would be a person's boss in one district, and in the second district be the subordinate of the superintendent. The commissioner looked at that in a different district, not in Belvidere, but has looked at this and then issued an advisory opinion, actually not a court case, an advisory opinion, stating that that clearly would be a conflict of interest. Now, when this first came up, just so you know, I had, and so did Chris, multiple conversations with our attorney, because I wanted to make sure that we were handling this the right way. You know, it's a serious thing. You know, elections are elections, and you want to make sure that we follow the law to the extent, you know, to the full extent of the law. So that's why we were back and forth. Also, I had conversations with our representative at school, New Jersey school boards, and then they also talked with their in-house attorneys as well. So we did a thorough vetting of the issue before. We wanted to make sure that we were getting sound advice and good direction, and that's what we did in response to make sure that the district was being protected and that Sarah was being protected as well. Chris, I don't know if you want to add
No, I
anything.
think you said it really. Ultimately, the issue would be Sarah. If she had, I don't really want to talk about Sarah too much. I don't think it's fair she's not here, but she could have been in a really tough situation should she have accepted the position and then not knowing it. So
I'm not questioning the decision.
Yeah.
Sarah's decision is not to talk about Sarah at all. Like I thought
Yeah.
good. What I want to know is how are we going to resolve it going forward? Because I can tell you that everyone I've talked to in town outside of this board, nobody knows that this occurred or that this is even an issue. And the Board of Education, the State Board of Education bylaws, specifically state and regional, and we're not a regional district. So I understand we could still fall under that loop, but it is different, and I just want to make sure that when we have candidates coming up in the future that we're aware of what the limitations are in our bylaws and the state, anything else.
yeah, I think the easy answer to that is if Sarah, let me take Sarah out of it. If a person had run, filed a petition, and we had known that ahead of time, we would have known before the election. But a write-in candidate, you don't know that the person is going to get enough write-in votes. I think that's where that line is a little different. I understand. I completely understand your point. I'm not arguing. I'm not arguing against you. I know exactly where you're going. I think on our end, we will be more conscious of that. I think that's where you're trying to get us to go in a lot of ways. Yeah.
And my
learning
other-
lesson, by the way.
And my other, question is there are 87 people that vote for the majority of them have no idea what's going on. So, and that's okay, but I don't know if we knew that this scheme was up and that she's currently not our representative today, and that to me is a concern.
And just again, I don't want to talk about Sarah, but just in the hypothetical, an individual does have an option. They could resign their employment, and then the conflict is resolved. So the person has a choice. Now you say resigning your employment. That's not an easy. Obviously, that's not an easy thing. But there were remedies. But again, what we needed to do is we could not be in a position where we were appointing an individual who did not have the statutory authority to serve.
I'm not questioning her. I'm
Okay.
just talking
I know.
about-
I think we get what you're saying. Yeah, I understand. Good point. Well taken.
Other questions from the public? Okay. Thank you for your comments.
My name is Susan Yarrow from White.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Susan Yarrow off of White.
Okay.
And this is not a big deal, but I think we just need clarification. On your meeting dates, you never state which week is reorganization. And I think it's important that people know that we working on January 3rd, it's election on November. Right? And so you're supposed to rework one in the next meeting.
The term runs through the calendar year, so the reorganization meeting would be the first meeting in the following.
Like White Township, when they do their meeting dates,
Mhm.
they put reorganization meeting.
Okay.
January.
All right, that's a fair comment.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
And the other second thing is, it seems like the website doesn't get updated much, and it's a little behind, and that's what people use. I mean, people don't look at the store ledger or the other things. So it would be nice if you could get, meeting minutes updated, agendas updated, dates for, meetings that are canceled and redone, updated on the website.
I think that's a fair comment. And actually, Chris and I just had a conversation about this not too long ago, back in December, about the need to make sure that our website is refreshed and up to date. I even know on our staff director there are some that requires some refreshment as well.
Okay. I somewhat disagree because just looking at the website right now, everything is up to date. And I know when we canceled the meeting, it was on the website, so.
But I'm saying like even staff directors.
That I agree with.
Yeah.
That I agree with.
Yeah.
The meeting dates and stuff.
Just to follow up on that quick question, especially with our high schools and everything else, our Facebook account, that's always pretty much updated by our student advocacy groups, correct?
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
making sure.
But we'll make sure it's completely up to date.
Thank you. Any other questions? No, thank you. Correspondence?
I don't have
No correspondence? Superintendent's report?
Okay, I just wanted to begin the meeting, just, first of all, I have a terrible voice too, fighting something also. I did want to just mention Kyle Dalrymple and his service for the last 3 years to the board. Unfortunately, he didn't really get a chance to serve it all the way through. I actually spoke to Kyle earlier in the week, and I thought Kyle did an outstanding job in his 3 years just as a board member. I just want to recognize him. I think he really contributed a lot in his short time here, so he will be missed. Everyone is invited next Friday, 2 Fridays from now. The National Junior Honor Society will have their induction at 12:30 in the afternoon in our auditorium here in the high school. There are 2 fantastic speakers that day. One is Miss Molly Sepeth will be one of the keynotes, and the other one is yours truly. So you can expect a 45-minute talk on whatever I feel like. But it's a great thing, the National Junior Honor Society. So if you're free that Friday afternoon, please feel free to attend. 12:30. It's on January 26th.
126. Thank you.
Yep. Next Wednesday, the 17th, we're going to have our first Wall of Fame, not Hall of Fame, Wall of Fame induction ceremony at 6 o'clock in the gym ahead of the boys' wrestling match. This is our first year with the Wall of Fame. For those of you familiar with some of the conversations we've had between the Hall of Fame and the Wall of Fame, the Hall of Fame will only recognize Belvidere graduates. The Wall of Fame is now set up to recognize contributions to the Belvidere School District with some certain criteria. So I'm going to attempt to remember the 6 people that will be inducted. I know for sure Brian Lang for his 40 years of service. Sarah Mark, although she has passed this, for the contribution she has made to the schools.
Frank Trigata.
Frank Trigata, thank you. Frank did a lot between teaching and superintendent and wrestling. Did some great things. Shelley is one of the best athletes that's existed in the high school. And I'm missing 2 people. Oh, Kathy Myers for her service on the school board. Yeah. What was it? Bernie Hart, thank you.
Oh, Bernie.
Bernie Hart for his contributions as well. So we'll be doing that 6 o'clock next Wednesday. Oh, and Terry Hummer, that's right, we had 7. Is it 7 or is it 6?
That's 7.
At 7, yeah, Terry Hummer, yes, thank you. So they'll all be recognized, be given plaques. The plaques will be put out on the wall. And again, the idea was to start to recognize significant contributions to the school district, not necessarily just alumni.
Next Wednesday, 6 o'clock.
Next Wednesday,
Where
6
is it?
o'clock.
Where is it?
The ceremony will be in the gym, the
Okay.
gymnasium. Looking forward to it. It's our first one, so we'll see how well it goes. Just a reminder for those on the liaison committee, the meeting is next Tuesday, 6 o'clock here.
Yep.
This afternoon, Ed and myself, Mr. Lazare, went at Centenary University, and we had a conversation with their administration about what they're going to call concurrent enrollment. So similar to dual enrollment that we work with through Warren County Community College. It was an interesting conversation because one of the conversations we've had as a board is some of the students that aren't the AP or the honors kids. I mean, how do you get them more involved? And that's who they want to approach and start to look at how can we help them get some college credit and taking some college classes. Really good workshop today. All the high schools in the county were represented, so we'll have more information on that. In fact, Belvidere is going to likely pilot 2 classes next year for them, and we're going to try to put a curriculum committee meeting together, hopefully next week, and that'll be one of the main topics we'll talk about and how that's going to look. So really excited what they have to offer. They presented really well today. We certainly have had some weather issues, as we usually do at this time of the year. Hopefully we'll pass the weather issues. Monday was one of those afternoons where a lot of concern about what time that brief storm was coming through, and we definitely had the conversation of erring on the side of caution, just to get the kids home, especially the students that drive. We always worry about them with icy conditions. So.
I actually was going to say, I wanted to commend you for the decision you made. I mean, there was some negative talk, I read it all, but you made the right decision.
We always say we'd rather have all the negative talk than the one negative talk if something happens to a student.
Yeah, right.
So we'll take that. The last thing, and probably one of the more important things, is on Friday, our performance reports will be released for the schools. First time they'll be made public. And the high school and the 3rd Street School have done very well. However, Oxford Street is now going to be listed as what we call a comprehensive school. And it's changing terminology, old version of what a priority school is. So the state, Chris went to a meeting run by the state on Monday. And we have some work to do. I mean, it stems mostly from our park scores and the negative impact that they had on the school. That's a brief version of it. At the next meeting, Chris and I will spend about 15 minutes going through a PowerPoint talking about the steps, the support we're going to get from the state. But the main impacts were the park scores, which we knew at the middle school were not strong this year, and we were marked as a chronic absenteeism school. That being said, once we realized that we were marked as chronic absenteeism school, we realized there was a mistake being made for the last probably 6 years in the way we report our attendance. Once corrected, we will now move out of that category. However, we can't correct last year's data. So you'll start to see some reports on that, and like I said, Chris and I will do a much more in detail version of that.
Sorry, keys up on the face. So question, Oxford Street is grades 4 to 8.
Correct.
Now, when they compare those 4 to 8 to make us consider a school of concern, how does that compare to a district that's say 6 to 8, and then another district, we have Oxford, that is fine, that is only 3rd grade that's park testing, that is comparing to another district that is 5.
Right.
So how did the state?
So really, I'm going to give you this in a nutshell, where I'll give you a much better explanation. But they're really looking at 2 things, but one of the 2 things has 2 parts to it. So obviously, park score is going to be the first thing. So they're going to look at the whole overall group. Okay. Now, what Chris and I found out, we'll call it the hard way, was we knew going into the assessments, we had 25 students opt out of taking the park assessment. Doesn't sound like a big number. However, when we have 200 students, statistically it's more than 10%. This year, the state marked anyone who did not sit for the test as not proficient. Not pulled them out like they had in the past. They're not proficient. Okay, so and we're going to try to meet with parents as we move forward to say, we understand some of the concerns of why you did not want your student to sit. However, they're going to now be marked not proficient, which will show up somewhere, even though the state said they're not going to use that anywhere. Okay, so now, and Chris was, if you know Chris, he took this very hard. He's going, so basically we're starting, the best we're going to do is 82% of our kids will be proficient. So that's the big negative right there. Okay, plus, we know that one group that we talked about when we did the testing that had a pretty down year, that's the perfect storm on the park assessment.
That grade is consistently going through.
Correct. So, and then and just to talk a little more about the absenteeism, it was, as we looked at the data, and Chris was saying, we've always had about an 18% chronic absenteeism rate in Oxford Street since before I was here. No one's ever really taken a good look at as to why. we'd always figured that if you have a kid, and we've always had 1 or 2 kids that are absent excessive amount of days, that would be the big issue. However, we realized that any student that left during the course of the day or came in late, so if little Chris Gruber comes in at 8:30, the way our system is set up, marked absent for the whole day. Same on the back end, leaves at 2, marked absent for the whole day. Well, now you just realize why we're chronically absent, because, you know, that's a significant number of kids. And it's funny because Chris ran that report on Monday as it was, and then when we took that piece out and we went back and corrected it, you go from an 18% to a 7%, which 10% is the chronic absenteeism number. And I said that, but you can't go back and change the data. You get one shot at changing that data, signed off on it, now you live with it. You know, it's really where it comes from. So he's got an action plan together. We've been meeting for a couple times this week. We will present the action plan to the curriculum committee, then we'll present the action plan to the entire board on the 24th.
But we don't know how it correlates to other districts that have different rates.
We don't know. We just can only focus on that because that's just the way it is.
Anything else, Chris?
That's all I have.
Any other questions for Chris? On personnel, excuse me, item number 1, can we get a motion and a second?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion.
Yeah, what's the difference? I mean, it's about...
The difference was, it's actually the same rate. The way it was worded the first time could cause Mr. Bachman issues with his pension because he's a retired teacher. We technically shouldn't have put him on guide. We were just using that as a mark of how much to pay him. So by paying him per diem rate, he can stay in the pension system and not have to.
The step B1 annual salary 147 comes out to approximately $900 a week. 257 a day comes out to $1,250, almost $1,300.
You're doing 147, 230 divided by 180?
No, divided by 52. Multiplying the other one.
We don't work 52. Yeah, we work 180. 100, yeah. So that's how that number comes back.
Any other questions? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Lucas?
Yes.
Mr. Metlow?
Yes.
Mr. LeBar?
Yes.
Mr. McInerney?
Yes.
Mr. Zeppeth? Dr. Zeppeth?
Yes.
Mr. Blum?
Yes.
Mrs. Pepino?
Yes.
Mrs. Furman?
Yes.
On education, can we have a motion and a second on items 2 and 3?
Motion.
Second. Discussion?
Number 2, the add-on, my only concern is that for both the first grade teachers, correct? Or is that the first and second?
First and second.
Okay, I'm gonna scratch that.
Other questions or discussion?
Can I just mention real quick,
Sure.
because I should have mentioned in my report. If you look on the add-on sheet, the date of 1/12/18, the Morris Area Honor Choir Rehearsal. So we had 2 students that qualified for the all-area choir. It's the first time we think in about 20 years that we've had students that have qualified for the all-area choir. Pretty big honor for our students. And Mr. AP has done an outstanding job with that program, so
He sure
we're
has.
really excited for them to participate in that. Should mention that.
I'm glad you highlighted that, Chris. Thank
Yeah.
you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Continuing business.
We have an item 4, I think, on the business.
Oh, I'm sorry, on our add-on agenda we do, thank you. On the add-on, we have, under business, item 4, do we have a motion and a second?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you, Brian.
Yep.
Continuing business, do we have continuing business?
I just want to follow up real quick, and I could be totally wrong. I could totally just have forgotten. Did we ever talk about the DLM scores? Because I know we had talked when we did the state scores, I was just wondering with DLM, since we are a receiving district and we do have tuition students, I know that those scores are phenomenal. I wanted to make sure that they were posted and they were public so that, not the scores, but you know what I'm saying, so that we can kind of, you know,
We
show
did
that to our
not, but I will do it,
districts.
I'll do it at the next meeting.
Make sure that.
It's a good question.
It's a good reminder, thank you.
Other continuing business?
Yes, I have a concern about committee reports. Many times in the past, we are faced with making decisions, but we have no information to make a decision with. Therefore, I would like to recommend that committees provide information to the full board in a time sufficient for consideration by the board member. So, to that effect, then, I will make that motion that the committee chairperson and/or their designee shall make a committee report to the full board within 72 hours following the day of the committee meeting.
How are they to make it to the full board? Because I do share all committee documents that I'm in charge of with the full board through Google Docs. I don't know if you're getting them or receiving them, so I think that's a great way to do it electronically. This way we're not sitting there wasting paper. We have moved to, you know, a green avenue.
I'm not getting any reports from you.
They're sitting in your Google Drive right now.
When were they sent?
After every educational curriculum meeting, I send them share them with everybody. I don't know if anybody's getting them, but they are shared with your Belvidere SD accounts.
I'm sorry, I'm not getting them.
Okay, we'll look into it, or I can send it to me, I'll cut and paste and I'll shoot it out to everybody.
I think we should encourage also use the Belvidere School District email. I think that
Yeah.
will simplify.
Yes.
I would agree. Our attorneys would agree.
Yeah.
I would be guilty of that right there.
Well, let's hold on to the Belvidere School, using that email convention, that discussion, since we're talking about committee reports. I don't want to muddy the discussion. I mean, we can come back to that notion, but that's different than the issue that Bob just raised.
It simplifies Bob's issue though, if we all use that.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's just a share of a document.
That would be wonderful. That would be.
All right, so we will strongly encourage everyone to use their Belvidere School Board email address. Everyone has a laptop now, so there's really no reason why we shouldn't be doing that.
Actually, when you log in, it's there.
Yeah,
Gmail's there, so you
You're
just
right.
click on the email tab.
right. Now we have a motion for Bob correct me if I'm wrong, I think the motion was that committee reports would be completed by the chair or their designee within 72 hours following the conclusion of the committee meeting.
Close. What I wanted was not to count the day of the meeting, but 72 hours after
So the meeting's on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, should be in your mailbox no later than Saturday night or Sunday morning.
that. Yes.
Do we have a second on Bob's motion?
I second it.
Other discussion? And then if, for whatever reason, the committee chair or their designee doesn't complete it, Chris, it would be then fall back to you then to kind of bird dog that to see where we
That's
are?
fine with me, yeah, that's fine, you know, I generally take all notes as well during the meeting
Yeah.
as it is, so.
Yeah. And I typically try, I don't get to every committee meeting, but I try to attend. I certainly attend the bulk of the committee meetings. Last year, I think I attended all the committee meetings with the exception of some negotiation committee meetings. Short of that, I was at just about every other committee meeting. So I don't know if I can make that commitment moving forward next year. I certainly will make every effort to be at as many committee meetings as as practical, and I also take notes while I'm in as well. Okay, all in favor of Bob's motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, let's try it. Let's see how things work, and then we'll gauge effectiveness and revisit if we need to do something.
I mean, you know, if somebody can't make it within the 72-hour period, we're certainly not going to put them on a cross.
No. No. I would, that would be highly unlikely. Okay, new business. Do we have any new business? We have to talk about that St. Luke's proposal at some point in time.
Yeah, well, and that's the other thing we'll present on the 24th.
Okay.
We'll have, that should be to everybody before then. We just were finalizing over the last couple of days some of the language, some of the numbers.
Okay.
But it should be all set to go.
Okay, good.
Sean, I was wondering
request from
if
them.
Shelley wanted to talk about the budget. That's just for our information, anything we need to know.
I distributed the budget calendar out to everyone, paper form.
Thank you.
The first budget draft is fairly close to being done at this point. The administrators will be meeting probably early next week, and then we'll go right into meeting with the finance committee on the date that's on the calendar.
Yeah, this will be on us before we know it.
Do you want to just talk about the committee structure?
Yeah, well, this is a good time to talk about committees. So I didn't bring my list of, I don't know if I have my list of committee members. Shelley, do you?
I don't have it.
No, I didn't bring it either, unfortunately.
Excuse me, I knew Kyle was the chair of the personnel committee.
So we are going to need a new chair for personnel. We have board members that are interested in serving as chair.
I can take care of personnel.
Deb, you will? Thank you. Okay, curriculum, Tad.
I'll continue if nobody else wants it.
Yeah, you've done a nice job, thank you. Brian, you're doing policy still, you'll continue with policy?
Yep. I
Thank
don't
you.
know who else is on the committee. You'll have to
We'll have to
check
review
the,
that.
check the list.
Okay, so let's
I
get
can
the,
meet
We
with
can have
myself
Lorette email
if
the
necessary.
share out the
okay.
committee meeting.
So Lorette will send out the current, she'll make the correction of adding Deb as chair, send that out, and then if anybody's interested in any change in committee assignment, just let me know. What am I forgetting? I'm forgetting one.
Is it possible curriculum committee to meet next Wednesday at 7 o'clock? Is everybody who's on curriculum now? So Michelle,
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely coming for the, I was gonna say for the wrestling match, but if you want to have a meeting, I'll
well,
have a meeting instead.
we can do it as early as soon as the Wall of Fame is over, which shouldn't be much more than 15 minutes. If we
Okay.
can do it at
Yeah,
6:15,
yeah.
that'd be fine
Yep,
too.
that's fine.
6:15 if that works.
All right, yeah, if we just play on right after.
45-minute meeting, then we can get into the wrestling match.
I think I'm okay.
Okay.
I should be able to make it.
I'll put out an email tomorrow morning just to remind everybody.
Okay.
Sean, it's curriculum, finance, personnel, policy. So finance is the one that.
Finance is the one we
and
haven't touched on.
Doc is the chairman? Okay.
You're good with remaining as chair? Bob, I think you're on finance, correct? I'm not sure who else is on finance right now. Well, we'll send out the
Yeah, we'll send out the list.
membership.
Yeah, we'll put that out tomorrow too.
Okay, all right. We have, as Chris mentioned, we have liaison committee meeting with Harmony on Tuesday at 6 p.m. here. So if anyone's interested in being part of that meeting as well, just let me know. I think that covers committees for now. No need for an exec. Okay, so we could dispense with that. Public participation. Do we have any questions from the public this evening? Any other questions? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.